Two big points have been just released in Canada, and both of them point to the same question. Is Canada really moving forward, or is it actually moving backwards? And you may want to stay in tune to this video to find out what these 2 points are exactly. Now, as someone who has lived most of his life in Canada, I have drastically seen the decline of the economy there, the quality of life, the quality of food, the just sheer diminishment of what Canada used to be when I grew up there. I remember that Canada actually used to be a free country where you could do things without having the police involved or the government involved into your life. And to the point that you were even able to choose the correct type of food to eat and what you were eating and how you were eating it, how it was prepared. And today I have been, given some information, and I had to look into this information to make sure that it's actually true, because I myself cannot believe it. But it is actually true, and this one has to do with the food, and the other one has to do with the standard of living in Canada. And just because these 2 points have been discussed only about Canada does not mean that it's not happening in other countries. And if you're listening to this video and you hear about these same things that are coming out in your home country, you may want to consider a different country to move to. And we've seen a lot of people here that once lived in Serbia, moving back to Serbia, had children in another country, they're looking to move to Serbia. And those who've never even had ties did their research and found that this country is the place to move. And this one might put you over the tipping point, or should I say these 2 points may put you over the tipping point. Now, number one is that Canada is changing its policy on cloned meat and dairy, which is something that I never thought I would see. Like, cloned meat, like, really? This means that milk and cloned cows and pigs, they would enter the food system without needing any safety reviews or any specific labeling. And I find that is just beyond ridiculous. Not only is the food already that much more expensive, but if I'm going to pay an exorbitant amount of money for food, I want to make sure that food is actually real and not something that is synthetic or cloned, so on and so forth. And so you won't know when you're purchasing this type of food now if it's going to be real food or if it's going to be bad food. And one of the things that I've noticed in many individuals that we've worked with here is that they've said that since moving here to Serbia, their energy levels have gone up. They're losing weight because the quality of food is better here, and that they're eating smaller meals and feeling fuller because there is more nutrition in the food here in Serbia. And it's one of the things that I've noticed here, my wife has noticed, and of course I did gain a little bit of weight coming in here at the beginning, because there's a lot of food here in Serbia that Canada doesn't have, and I had to pig out a little bit when I first got here, and I added a good 15-20 kilos, but eventually put a stop to that. But the real issues when it comes to these cloned meats is that the regulators say that the cloned meat looks the same on paper today, and there is no issues when it comes to eating real meat or synthetic meat. But we know with many things in life that if you don't have a research to back up all your claims, that it's going to take a while for anything to show up. That means that if it's still going to be pumped with antibiotics, it's still going to be given hormones, it's still going to be a high chemical feed that these animals are getting. And that means that there's going to be a lot more issues when it comes to health, when it comes to diseases in humans in general. And so I think that them saying that there is no difference between synthetic or cloned meat to the real stuff that you are buying, that they are hugely lying to you. They're lying to you because, one, they don't have the data to back it up, so it's safe to say it now. And when the results come in that people are all of a sudden getting more heart disease, more cancers, so on and so forth, they're going to say it's your lifestyle choices. Were you smoking? Were you eating? Did you have a sedentary life? So on and so forth. But they won't actually look at the causes of what these synthetic foods did. And as we know, with a lot of health companies out there, they have a lot of money. They will find some way to distance themselves from lawsuits. And so I think this is a huge issue when it comes to Canada and Canada's food supply. And so what is the difference between the Canadian food supply and Serbia's food supply? Well, there's a drastic difference. One of the things is when it comes to the farms here, 99.5% of the farms here in Serbia are family owned and not corporate owned, which is going to just tell you in that one statistic, how Serbia views its food manufacturing and delivery system here. Most food comes from local producers and not mega supply chains. Not saying that they do not exist here. Of course, there are large chains here, but at the same time, one thing that I've noticed a huge difference here in Serbia compared to when I lived in Canada is that there are a lot more farmers markets here where you can go to a local butcher, where you can go to someone selling vegetables and fruits and ask them, where did your food come from? Who grew it? What did you feed it? What did you use on it? Honey, at the same time, also, you can find the beekeepers. You can actually go to their place and see how they keep their bees and how they treat their bees. It's phenomenal. And at the same time, when it comes to dairy, you can get homemade cheeses here. You can get raw, unpasteurized milk here. It's one of the things that we did for our son here because we think that giving a child raw, unpasteurized milk is a great advantage, where in Canada, it's illegal to do so. And so there's a huge difference there. And another thing that I remember when I used to go to farmers markets in Canada is that these farmers, they put out their stands out there and they have their fruits, vegetables, so on and so forth, and they're saying that it's their own stuff. But when you look at the back of the truck, that it's actually boxes from the grocery stores or these large distribution centers. And then when you ask them, they're like, oh yeah, well, we did get that from them. We just sell to them and then we buy it back at a cheaper price. And, it's a huge gong show when you actually get into it. So I think that is a huge difference here. And one of the reasons we decided to move to Serbia is because we wanted quality food here, and that's something that we got. And so we get to eat local food at an affordable price, and it's traceable and fresh, which I think is very, very important. And a lot of times here in Serbia, especially now that we're getting into the fall and winter season, you get to eat foods that are just harvest and things that are in season. And of course, we do get things imported here from other countries. But at the same time, it's mostly you eat what's available at that time of year. Now, the thing that I want to talk about also, which is the second part of these points, is that the Bank of Canada just recently said to Canadians that they need to expect a lower standard of living after they announced their interest rate cuts, which I think is absolutely absurd because Canadians are already living at a subpar standard of living. I would say that the people are hurting there a lot more. In Canada, people are about $200 away from being absolutely in financial ruins. I know when I left a couple years ago that people are already hurting then because they're just getting out of the pandemic. But the economy has not done very well in Canada at all. I believe in the last 10 years that the GDP in Canada has only grown 0.5%. Where in Serbia, it's grown at least 3 to 4%, depending on what years you're looking at. And I'm not trying to compare Serbia's GDP to Canada's GDP. Of course, they're larger countries. Canada's got 40 million people, where Serbia's got 7.5 million people. So we can't really compare to that, but at least there's growth in this country. Now, this is not just inflation, this is not just housing, but an overall baseline of life in Canada. And they're saying that the future won't look well either. The budget that was just released by Parliament is absolutely absurd. Justin Trudeau has spent most of the money or more money than all prime ministers ever did as a total, and now this new clown is looking to outspend Justin Trudeau, which is an absolute embarrassment. So let's be honest when it comes with the numbers. Canada still has a much higher average income than Serbia. That's a fact. However, what is left over at the end of the month, that's what we got to look at. I don't remember the last time I ever lived in Canada that I heard people going on summer vacations and winter vacations. And one of the things that I've noticed here in Serbia is that every summer, everybody's going to Greece. Everyone's going to Montenegro. People are going to Croatia, so on and so forth. In the winter, where are we going? We're going to Cyprus. We're going to Monaco. We're going to Dubai, right? We're going to Egypt. And so people here still have the funds left over to go on vacations where that just alone shows me that they're in a much better financial position. More people here own their properties outright, where in Canada, people are mortgaged to the gills and they are struggling to either pay their mortgage bill or pay their utilities, which, kind of shows you where it's at. Now, I do believe that people and citizens in both countries need to be a little bit more financially literate and understand what are necessities when it comes to spending and what is not, but I'm not here to give that type of information. And so I believe that daily life should run on what you can actually afford, what you can afford to do, eat, and experience. And I believe that quality of life here in Serbia is much better than the quality of life in Canada, because people now are not being able to do much in Canada. You're not going to have to be able to afford good food, especially now with this synthetic food coming in. And people don't get to experience much in life. One of the beautiful things here is that after 5 o'clock, people are home from work, so on and so forth. The roads are absolutely packed with kids, families, people going to do things. Where in Canada, 5 o'clock, you're lucky to see someone on the road unless they're walking their dog because the dog's been locked up all day and they're just getting their 1 hour exercise before they go back into their house and, get ready for the next workday. And so I really believe that Serbia pulls ahead in many aspects. So the rent is cheaper here. You have fresh food at a dramatically cheaper price. Restaurants and cafes, basic services are much more affordable here as well, where they're also going to have good food. People live socially here, not financially strained, which is a huge advantage. There's not a chokehold on your neck here that you're afraid to do something because it's going to cost you extra, or you're going to have to work overtime to make up one good night out here in where they do that in Canada. You don't need a six-figure salary to go and do things, to go and travel to national parks, to go skiing here, to go to a couple different countries. Flights here to go visit Italy, to go to Hungary, to go visit Dubai are much more affordable than it is to just travel within Canada, which I think is absolutely absurd. So I think if any of these points resonate with you, not only in Canada, but any other country, that you may want to sit back and look at how that country has been, where it is now, and what direction is it going? What kind of government policies are being implemented? And I'm not saying that Serbia has a great government. I'm saying that everywhere you go, the government's going to be hated. But what direction do you see your life going towards? And is it going to be better than the last 5 and 10 years? Or do you see it being worse in the next 5 or 10 years? And you may want to make a decision to leave sooner rather than later, before your bank account shrinks, before you start eating the food that's less healthy for you, where you're going to start getting ill, especially if you're getting into the senior ages. And think about the future generations ahead. Is that something that you want your children to experience and their children to experience? I don't think that anyone wants a worse life. I think that most people want a better future. And if that's you, you may want to consider leaving and checking out Serbia.